COVID-19 Watch. This is where we take you through the economics of the pandemic. Like I said earlier, today I'll be having two guests, but my first conversation starts right now. Lanre Olusola is joining me. He is the Catalyst. He's a life and behavioral change coach. Mr. Olusola, good to have you on the show. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, Nancy. How are you?
I'm good. I think we should just get started. How well are people across the country, not just even across the country, across the world right now, dealing with this new reality of closed businesses, radically altered lives? A lot of people, weddings have been postponed. A lot of people, domestic violence is up right now. A lot of people have their stress source exacerbated as a result of their finances depleting. How well can we handle this, especially even with the threat of coronavirus itself?
I think we're at a very difficult time where a lot of people are only thinking about survival. There are 8 dimensions of existence, from survival to significance. What we find today that all that people are thinking about is, how can I survive? How can I stay alive? And, that in itself is creating a lot of stress. And when you operate only in survival mode, you generate a lot of stress responses. And, stress is emotional and physical and psychological tension. It's the result of what is going on around you and how you are interpreting what is going on around you. And it generates frustration, anger, fear, worry, anxiety, and panic. And then physiologically, your body begins to respond to panic, anxiety, and worry. The World Health Organization agrees that 80 to 90% of healthcare challenges are preventable, and they account for 90% of healthcare costs on individuals, organizations, and nations. And 95% of them are stress related. Now, 95% of disease is caused by stress, and 100% of stress is caused by wrong beliefs. And so the pandemic will come and it will go, but many people will create permanent health challenges and problems for themselves. It's time to pause. It is time to pause. It is time to stop. It is time to think about how you can get out of your stress mode and transition into an emotional, psychological, spiritual place of safety. Because if you do not, you will be creating permanent problems for yourself. And those permanent problems are going to be very disastrous. Irritable bowel syndrome, panic attacks, viral prolapses, heart palpitations, coronary artery diseases, high blood pressure, and a lot of that. And you see what happens when a lot of people are stressed, especially when it comes to financial, environmental, and safety stress. It generates a lot of anxiety. Now, when you are anxious, what begins to happen is that you create about 30 stress hormones that are released into your system, 2 of which are even though they are good for you, but because you're not dissipating them, adrenaline and cortisol, it will be dangerous for you, because what happens when you have too much cortisol in your system is that it diminishes your immunity. One of the things they've told us during COVID-19 is to make sure that you boost your immunity, right? Now, if there's too much cortisol in your system, it diminishes your immunity, and then it opens you up to attacks by several.
Okay, I've heard what
So it's important that people manage their stressors.
Okay, I've heard what you've said, and very remarkable for me when you talked about a lot of people are in the survival mode. Like I said earlier before you came up, Nigeria is the poorest country in the world as it is right now with the statistics. We are the headquarters of poverty. So a lot of people are in the survival mode. We've seen we're still on a lockdown. So some people do not even have what to eat right now. Can you actually get from the survival mode to a significance mode when your means of survival are you are not getting it?
I mean, it's impossible for you to transition straight from survival to a state of significance. It's not possible. You have to transition first from survival to safety, and then from safety to stability, and then from stability to security, then from security to self-worth, from self-worth to substance, from substance to success, and then from success to significance. What am I talking about? If you don't have hope, if you do not have a sense of livelihood, you cannot transition to safety. When we look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, you would realize that the basic needs are at the bottom of the pyramid. That is air, food, shelter, and, and breathing, right? That's where most people are. But you see, most of these things that we are thinking about and talking about is mostly psychological, because your psychology influences your sociology, your psychology influences your biology, your psychology is even influential in how you can make money. So if all that you're thinking about is survival, eat, how can I eat, right? You're not going to be able to be productive. You're not going to be able to perform. You're not going to be able to critically reason and think about, solutions that you can provide. Now, people pay for solutions, and it is in the areas where you have most problems that opportunities arise. A lot of people need to sit down today and ask themselves, what opportunities exist today? What are the needs of people today? What problems are people having today? And how can I position myself to meet some of those needs? How can I position myself to solve those problems? Which of those problems am I passionate about solving? Which of those problems am I passionate about? Those needs am I passionate about meeting? These are the questions that you need to keep thinking about. There are certain people, as we speak today, that have critical needs, certain people that have critical challenges. How can you position to solve those problems? And you've got to think differently, because you've got to be thinking about virtual. You've got to be thinking about digital. Social distancing is the order of the day. What can you do virtually? There is 7.5 billion people on the face of the earth, and there's 5 billion people virtually. So we live in two worlds now. People have to be innovative. People have to be creative. People have to focus on solving problems. People have to focus on meeting needs. It's not about products anymore. It's not about brands anymore. It's not about luxury anymore. It's about meeting needs. So one of the challenges that I have for each Nigerian is to sit back, use this COVID-19 reset season, because it's a reset season. Look, the way you see the problem is the problem. You can either see it as, I'm in jail, I'm on lockdown, or you can see it as an opportunity to reset and re-strategize. And so this is the time that you need to be thinking. This is the time that your brain needs to be functioning. This is not the time that you need to shut down.
Okay.
If you remain in survival mode, you will shut down.
Okay, I think let's go on a quick break. Well, we'll come back to talk about how we can perhaps achieve balance, because I've been listening to you, how we can achieve balance in this world of imbalance right now. Like I said earlier, a lot of people don't have money now. Some have actually run out of money. Some that even do financial planning very well, emergency funds and all of that. If we continue on this lockdown, their emergency savings can run out. So a lot of people are under so much stress right now, authenticated by perhaps the finances. So let's quickly take a break. We'll be right back. I can't hear again. The thing was off. Yeah. All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, still Moneyline with Nancy segment on COVID-19 Watch. Before the break, we were looking at how to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic. Lanre Olusola is still with me, the Catalyst, the Life and Behavioural Change Coach. Ms. Olusola, just before we went on a break, you were talking to us about what we should do to make sure we go beyond survival, safety, then to significance. But I also want to ask this question, that how can we maintain equilibrium? Bearing in mind, for example, some weeks ago, we had an intervention here in AIT where we went to, check out how people are doing. And so heartbreaking, I saw a widow with, I think, 4 children, no money, no means of survival. The government says lockdown. Her small provision store is no longer working. How do you tell that kind of woman to maintain equilibrium where there's so much imbalance around her right now?
All right. I mean, whether we have COVID-19 or we don't have COVID-19, we will always have the poor amongst us. So before COVID-19, we had people that were begging. The only way that they could, sustain themselves was through, help from people that are well-to-do. And so one of the things that is really critical that we've got to look at is the restoration of humanity. And we've got to begin to think about being our brother's keepers. So, different communities and different, estates are putting money together to help the people around them. We've got to create a lot of awareness. So AIT, the news platforms, the media platforms, we have to create a lot of awareness. We have to, get people to begin to think not just about themselves. We've got to get people to begin to think about, their neighbors. Now, that is the very first thing that we need to do. Now, there's absolutely nothing that these people can do to generate revenue now. We've got to be human. We've got to be selfless. We've got to reach out and help those people within our communities. We've got to ensure that we make social impact. The first level, that's the first thing that we need to do. So, media need to come together to begin to share the challenges that people are having. People need to eat first. And so how can we be our brother's keepers? So if you live in Surulere, if you live in Aguda, if you live in Egbeda, if you live in K2, if you live in Lekki, if you live in Ekpe, don't just lock yourself up at home. On a weekly basis, make a commitment to yourself to say, okay, you know what, that my welder, let me wire 2,000 naira to him. That my painter, how is he even faring? That my mechanic, how is he even surviving? This is the time that you need to show that you care. This is the time that you need to show that you care. This is the time that you need to share. It is very, very important. And so everyone that is listening to me now, if you have, please, I beg of you, this is the time to do God's work. And what is God's work? Jesus says that I was hungry and you fed me. I was sick and you came to visit me in the hospital and provided medicine for me. I didn't have shelter and you provided shelter for me. I didn't have clothes to wear and you provided clothes for me to wear. And then they asked him, when did we do this for you? And he said, for as long as you do it to the least of these, you did it to me. It is a spiritual obligation that we have, especially at such a terrible time as this. The onus lies on us to provide social, impact. We need to help our brothers and our sisters out there, our neighbors. Government alone cannot do it.
Okay.
It is our responsibility.
While I was ruminating over this interview this morning, just before I came to work, as in thinking, what also came to my mind is that this period, how well am I? I was asking myself, even while I was just before my makeup mirror, I was asking Nancy, how well are you this period? How can I gauge my wellness and my mental health at this time? Because you see that even for those that do not have money, for those of us that are also helping, there's so much stress. How can I gauge my wellness at this point? Because you see that some people also react, you know, when you have calls now, a lot of calls that are coming are, please help me, please send me money, that you don't just, you know, misfire, or you don't just get angry. So how can I gauge my wellness at this point?
All right. So one of the things that we also did was we created a stress test. And so everybody needs to take that test to understand their stress levels. And so if you go to my social media handle, my Instagram is Lanre Olusola, no H in Olusola. You will find access to where you can take this stress test for free. So if you go to my Instagram, Lanre Olusola, you will find my link to my stress test. Please take that stress test for free. Secondly, is we have created a platform called the Coach Me Online platform, where we have over 100 life coaches and therapists that can help you. So it is free. Your first 2 sessions are free. So also go to my page at Lanre Olusola on Instagram and find out the 4 steps that it would take you to get a coach for free. Those are the 2 things that you need to do immediately. The third thing is that we have created audio meditation material that helps you calm down. There's another one that is called the affirmation that you need to listen to, because your words influence your state of mind. And so with these 4 interventions, you can begin to enter a state of stability and security, transitioning away from survival, at least in your state of mind, in your stress level, because you don't look. It is important that this temporary challenge with COVID-19, you do not create a permanent problem for yourself. So the materials that we have created and we are making available for you, even with the coaching and the therapy, will move you straight from survival to a place of substance. If you follow through, it will move you from survival to substance. And then at the point of substance, you can begin to think about how can I begin to succeed and how can I transition into significance.
Okay.
You need it.
Okay, I just have a few more minutes with you before we go on to the next segment. I like what you've said in terms of how we should handle this anxiety, this panic, and this fear, especially this time. The fear of even contracting coronavirus itself is a big fear, you know. Then the fear of how do I, just like you say, how do I move from survival to significance, to succeed? That's another fear. You're seeing that even people right now having imaginary symptoms. If I cough small now, I'll be thinking, oh, are you sure it's not a COVID symptom? Or if I sneeze, or if I do this, if I have runny nose. So your mind is just on a big race right now. Google anything now, people just go to Google, what's the symptom of this? To see, you know, so that insanity somehow is there just for a few seconds. How do we also transit as a nation?
I mean, Nancy, if I'm going to just jump into what you're saying now, a lot of people are displaying anxiety symptoms and they're psychosomatic. Lump in their throat, palpitation, racing heart, nausea, headaches, cold chills, dizziness, you know, muscle tension, tingling, chronic fatigue, body pain, bloating, difficulty breathing. And they're afraid that they've contacted the coronavirus. A lot of people are displaying psychosomatic symptoms of anxiety because of the news that they are getting. So one of the things that we have to do as individuals and as a nation is that the news that we're sharing, 3 million people globally have been tested. About 200,000 people have died. What about the 2.8 million people that are surviving it? I mean, how about us? We begin to change the script. Yes, we know that, COVID-19 is killing people, but there are more people that are surviving than are being killed. And what we hear, right? The good book says that faith cometh by hearing. So what we hear is the critical influencing factor in these anxiety symptoms, in the way that people are thinking, in the way that people are remaining in survival mode. And so let us convey truth and let us convey what is true. Yes, people are dying. Yes, millions of people are being tested. What about the recovery rate? From what I hear, about 90% of people that recover, it's their immune system, which means that if you develop your immune system, you have a higher tendency of beating COVID-19 if you follow responsibly the steps that the experts have told us to follow. Social distancing, wash your hands regularly. Don't touch your face. Take vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin B complex. And so, as individuals, we need to do that. As a government, we need to also begin to speak the positive news. People need hope. Yeah. And so media houses need to be responsible in the way that they are portraying this pandemic. Yes, we know that it's dangerous. Yes, we know that it's a pandemic. Yes, we know that people are dying. 57 million people die every year from different forms of diseases. 57 million people. If we do a projection till the end of the year, with the rate at which COVID-19 has killed people, 600,000 people will die. 620,000 people die of malaria every year. 800,000 people commit suicide every year. 17 million people die of cardiovascular diseases. So 57 million people will die. At the end of this year, COVID will contribute maybe 600,000 to the people that will die. Every year, for the last 4 years, approximately 57 million people have died. So we need to be dealing in truth, and we need to be painting the right picture. It is very, very important. And if you look at the people that have died from COVID-19, there are people with underlying critical medical conditions and aged people. I'm not trying to be callous, but what I'm saying is the natural result is 140 million people will be born every year. 57 million people must die.
And you know what? Let's just conclude with this, with just what you've said, that 140 million will be born every year. As a result of the lockdown globally, I guess there will be a lot more babies that will be born this year. So, so we'll have a lot of quarantines in 2023. Those that are entering their teenage years in 2023, they'll be like, you guys are pandemic babies, or you guys are corona babies. So you guys are remarkable babies that will remember that something like this happened like 10 to 15 years before. So let me just give you 30 seconds to round up. I'm seeing a lot of people commenting right now. Let me see if I can take any. Okay, Ogechukwu says, you really talk from the inner heart and giving hope to the hopeless. Enjoying your talk with Nancy. What do you have to say in just 30 seconds? Because just like you said, we may even have a lot of people are hopeless now, but we hope that hope doesn't move them to like kill themselves or do stuff that are inimical to them and their family. A lot of people have also lost loved ones as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. So what can you just tell Nigerians at this time, despite...
I mean, I'm going to tell Nigerians not to be afraid of death. I am going to die. Nancy, you're going to die. Everybody is going to die. We cannot all live forever. Something must kill us. Whether it's a disease, whether it's an accident, whether we die in our sleep, no one is going to live forever. Death is sure. Death is sure. What is most important is the quality of life that you live and the quality of emotional balance that you have. And I'm going to end with a statement. Boost your dose of dose. Boost your dose of dose on a daily basis. There are 4 happy hormones that you need to make sure that you have the right dose of them in your body every day. It's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And what do you need to do? Exercise 3 times a week. Make sure that you eat healthy. Make sure that you take food supplements. Make sure that you eat this in your diet. Eggs, beans, fish, bananas. Very, very important. Make sure that you meditate regularly. Make sure you have enough good sleep. Make sure you are content with your life. Reduce your sugar intake. Reduce your sugar intake. I cannot overemphasize it. Meditate, think properly, and make sure that you laugh. This is a time when you need to watch comedy. Laugh. I cannot overemphasize it.
Like I'm doing right now. Look, I think I should laugh through this crisis. And just to add,
let's see those comedians.
Yeah. Okay, I think a lot of those comedians are even coming on Instagram Live to I think that's also where they need to fill in the gap. And perhaps less alcohol at this time. Is it? You didn't put that in your list.
Many people are becoming alcoholics now.
No.
Look, the long-term effect of COVID-19, we haven't even seen it. Organizations are going to suffer because people are going to be less productive, they're going to perform less, and they're going to be less profitable. How are organizations preparing? Because people have been shut down for 4 to 6 weeks. Their brains have been shut down. Do you think that they will just switch on? Organizations need to start to engage the services of coaches and psychologists to begin to help them analyze the mindset of their people. Look, the effect is going to be phenomenal. My issue is not even with COVID-19. We're going to beat it. My issue is the long-term effect of COVID-19.
Yes.
And we need to prepare. We need to prepare. We shouldn't be like the 5 foolish virgins. We must be like the 5 wise virgins. Anticipate what is to come and prepare ahead for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olusola, for speaking with me. I look forward to speaking with you again as we move forward, because this is a journey for us. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And just like you said, that the media should also stand in the gap. And that is why I'm doing the show today, and not to be like an agent of doom or agent of negative news. Oh, our economy is not going to do well. We're going to be in a recession. But in all of that, too, you can also still make money. In all of that, you can also succeed. In a crisis, there's always an opportunity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy.